often get involved in praying to demon spirits?
A fellow that had been on a particular ship with me, he told me, hey, I got something fantastic to tell you. He said, I am affiliated with people that speak with the spirits of the dead. How would you like to talk to the spirit of your dead mother? And I was shocked. I was shocked. He said, you wouldn't be afraid of talking to the spirit of your dead mother, would you? Well, I said, I'll tell you what, I would have to give that some thought, because it's something I never thought about before in my life.
Most of us probably haven't. A little afraid of something like that.
Well, he says, you know, it's written all over your face. You're afraid of going to a seance. But he says, I know you. He says, you're going to come. And then he started telling me how brave I was when I was aboard ship, you know, different things. He says, you're not the same man, you've changed. You're chicken. That's all I needed to hear. I said, when do we go to a seance? So one Saturday evening, we were in the place. It was the first time, very beautiful. We played the medium. There was a lady. She had a gorgeous new home in Montreal. And there were about 20 invited guests there, which I was one of them. And she communicated with the spirits for there's different people there. And they're telling them what the spirit said. One man said, I would like to talk to my friend that died 6 months ago. But I don't want him to appear. Just want to talk to him. Because he says, I don't trust you talking to my friend for me. So the medium says, let me inquire of the spirit. Yeah, the spirit will talk with you. And that big masculine voice was heard in the place. It says, hi, Frank. It's nice of you to ask for me to talk with you. And they had a little chat. And after it was over, Frank says, this is the greatest thing on earth, to be able to talk with the spirits of the dead. Then the medium said, we have a very special surprise tonight for you people. A spirit will manifest itself openly here in a few minutes. And it's like a big gust of wind hit the building. And right through the wall. And the lights weren't terribly bright, but they were like living room lights. A couple of floor lamps and maybe some of these. And that translucent being seemed to come right out of the wall.
How did you feel right at that moment?
It's almost like my heart stopped a little bit. You know, very weird feeling. So it was a lady in a beautiful evening gown, swirling. And she said to Mary, my dear sister, you are so wonderful to have asked for me. And Mary fainted and fell right off her chair on the floor. And a couple of guys jumped up and picked her up, and spirit gone. That was the beginning of it.
That's how you got into it.
Yeah, that's the way we got into it. After a while, you see, there's something interesting about the human mind. You can adjust an awful lot of stuff. You can adjust to a lot of things that would terrify you to begin with. After a while, they become common and ordinary.
So you mean contact with the supernatural can become commonplace and ordinary and doesn't bother anybody?
Yeah.
In other words, the more that you do it, you're not uncomfortable.
That's right.
It's just not an uneasy feeling.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about it?
Then I got into a secret society that worshiped the spirits, you see.
Well, how is that different from the seance, Roger?
It happens that the seance are not involving in many ways. But when you get into a secret society of spirit worshippers, then, and especially when you're invited there by the direction of the higher-ups in the spirit world, you never get out of there alive. And it's exactly what my friend and I were up against. We didn't know anything about. And there was a very, very popular big band leader,
jazz
band, Yeah, very famous. And one night we went to one of these seances, and he was with his wife.
So Roger, you're at this restaurant. What happened?
We sat there, and we had our favorite alcoholic beverages, you know. And as we talked, the band leader says, he says, I want power. I go right to the source of power. And he says, how do you think that I became famous the way that I am? Well, I said, you must have had some good luck. Well, he says, there's no such thing as good luck. He says, there's either some power working for you somewhere, or you don't get ahead in this world. Not in my type of occupation. So it went from there. We got talking about spirit worship.
Did it intrigue you? Or did it make you want to find out more about what exactly he was talking about?
Yeah. So he said the supposed spirits of the dead that you're talking with are demon spirits. They're fallen angels. They're beautiful beings.
Just set it out, just like that.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't make you uneasy when he said they were
Well, you know, it
demons?
shocked you a little bit, you know. Something that you first hear mentioned to you. He said, you guys have got a great future ahead of you. Because we've been told, the high priest of our society, secret society, has been told that the master has very special plans for you too.
Now, what did he mean by the master?
Satan. And we were interested to hear more about it. And he told us, he says, look, we worship spirits. We worship Lucifer, Lucifer and all his angels. They're just as beautiful as they did before they were cast out of heaven. He says there was a misunderstanding in the whole thing. He says among the inhabitants of the galaxies. And he says our master was misunderstood. And God did not bear with him like he does with people that make mistakes today. So we're in a warfare, good against evil. And we happen to be the evil ones, but we're not that bad. He says, I look at this business between the forces of good and evil. He says, you believe in one person believes in God, and everyone believes in Lucifer. It's like politics.
So the great controversy is real. And you heard someone talk about it that's on the other side.
And to these people, they are sold to the fact that Christ will not return to this planet with power and great glory. He's going to abdicate all claims to the planet, because the high priest once said that Christ will abdicate all claim to the planet because he knows that it is lawfully and rightfully Satan's. And at that time he says, so the priest says, well now, he says, for those of you that are new, let me tell you that this is the most feasible way, he says, to please the spirits is to deride Christ and his people, you know, and his church and all that. So they sing out of Christian hymnals.
They didn't sing Christian words to the hymns, however.
Well, they changed a lot of them. Yeah.
Not
It's a form of blasphemy. Such as you see today in the rock music world. You see the entertainers, they have these crosses. The ladies got earrings, crosses. The guys got crosses. This is a form of blasphemy, a form of deriding Christ. You see. Spirits cause the people to do that, to find pleasure in wearing this type of emblem, which is the cross is the emblem of the crucifixion of Christ for the Christians. The master of my life has revealed to me that it is time for you people to become acquainted with the worship room of the gods, where they had the spirits that had materialized. They photographed them, and then they had paintings made of them. And there was probably about maybe 100 of those around the place.
So how did you feel when you walked into that room?
I felt that these people had power, and they had a lot of it.
Did that attract you?
Yes and no.
You had mixed feelings about it.
I had mixed feelings about it. Yeah. because to a certain extent things looked so good and sounded so good to us. But you see, I'd been brought up in a Christian home. My dad says, well, you know, if you get involved in wrongdoing, you're going to have to pay the price. There's always a cost for everything in this world. So this thought kept creeping to my mind. Just how far you go with these spirits before we start paying the price.
So it made you just a little bit nervous.
Oh, yes.
But yet you kept going back.
Oh, there was no way out. Because that's what we're told.
You knew at that time.
Yeah.
So you were moving forward more on fear.
More on fear, yes. Because the high priest said that the master had special plans for us in our lives. And that no one ever went into this society unless they were invited by the spirits. So that was made very clear.
In reality, Roger, you were chosen by high-powered demon spirits to be a part of their human, special, privileged group.
You see, these people in Montreal, the society, like the priest mentioned, there's thousands of spirit worshippers in only different societies of spirit worshippers in this world. But he says, we are the elite. We know the real truth about the master and his angels. And they're not hideous-looking beings. They are gorgeous creatures. And from the paintings that they had on the wall of the walls of that worship room.
Now, when you would go to these praise sessions, what kinds of things happened at those sessions?
Well, there's a lot of success stories. The masters has done this for me and that for me. I remember one.
At what point did this demon worship start to affect you personally, Roger?
Well, it wasn't too long that the priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from. That the priest mentioned to us that the time had arrived for us to start trusting the spirits and give the spirits a chance to work for us. And there was a number of gifts that you could choose from. There's his devotions and the worship room of the gods, and he will use a trance medium to converse with certain demon spirits that will inform him in regards to ancient history. And the man shook his head a little bit like this. His eyes went glazed, and he stayed at it for a half hour. And the spirit spoke to him. So then the spirit counselor, and what would you like to know?
And so he asked the questions of one of these human beings that was channeling.
Oh yeah, the voice changed and everything. The voice changed of the person completely. And
it identified itself as a spirit guide.
Oh, yeah, spirit counselor, yeah.
Okay, a spirit counselor. And then proceeded to tell him all the events that he was asking,
Yes.
answer his question?
They had three major policies that were going to be followed. First, Lucifer says, we have to make sure that people, humans, get to believe that Satan and his angels do not really exist.
You know, Roger, that's interesting because a recent research study report that I read indicated that in a national survey, I believe it's over 75% of people do not really believe in a real tangible devil. But there is one.
Oh, the next thing, the three parts policy that they had adopted there, the second one was to find a way of being able to get total control of people's minds. And that would be done by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introduce it as a new science for the benefit of mankind. They felt that by taking hypnotism out of the realm of the occult and introducing it as a new science for the benefit of mankind, they could then use people of great renown, educators, people of capacity, that would do great things, such as supposedly regress people in time to former lives. And of course, after the session is over, the person would not know a thing about ancient history. And the person she or he has talked about performing, certain deeds, let's say, 3,000 or 4,000 years ago. But this was their strategy. Now, what this would do for the thing is this, that it would create in the minds of the general public, solidly set now in the general public, an unwavering trust in that great deception. So now this would be a way of de-Christianizing the Western world through the avenue of mysticism.
The three things were, number one, that they did not want Satan did not want the human family to think that he or his angels existed.
Right.
The second point that you made had to do with taking control of people's minds.
That's right.
The third point was what?
Was to destroy the Bible without burning it.
Okay.
See?
And what was his strategy on that?
On that, it was very interesting. Because after the Great General Council, it was decided that Satan would tutor Charles Darwin personally in setting up the principles of his theories of evolution. He was tutored by Lucifer himself, fallen Lucifer. And at that time, it was understood, Satan and his spirit counselors understood, that if a person was led to believe in the theory of evolution, it would, in his life, destroy completely the creation week of the Bible, the fall of man, and the plan of redemption. It would do away with it. Anyone that teaches a theory of evolution is considered to be a minister of a great religious system. And he said that every teacher of that theory is recognized by the spirits as a person of great value and receives a very special unction from Satan himself, giving great power to induce spiritual blindness, to convince and convert. Three capacities. Grain plain, the Master's grain plain, for harvesting the nations, for harvesting the multitudes of the earth, and through his cause, just before the close of the great controversy between the forces of good and evil. It's going to be done in a unique manner. This grain plains is going to take people are going to eat the stuff. Because it says spirits, demon spirits, will declare themselves to be inhabitants of far distant planets in the galaxies that are coming to warn the inhabitants of planet Earth of the impending destruction of the planet unless something seriously proper is done to avoid it.
Il est resté plus de 9 heures sur la Lune. En 1971, Edgar Mitchell devient un héros américain. Il est le 6e homme à arpenter notre satellite. Là-haut, il n'a pas vu de petits hommes verts, et pour cause, les extraterrestres ne sont plus sur la Lune, mais ici, sur Terre, et depuis longtemps.
Je ne sais pas combien, ni où, ni comment ils font, mais ils nous observent, et ici on peut voir leurs appareils tout le temps.
Edgar Mitchell est né à Roswell. Pour lui, c'est sûr, quand il avait 17 ans, un ovni s'est écrasé dans sa ville, c'était en 1947. Et depuis, le gouvernement dissimule les corps de 4 aliens retrouvés dans le désert.
La raison de ce complot, c'est parce qu'ils ne savaient pas s'ils étaient hostiles et si on pouvait se protéger. Ils ne voulaient pas non plus que les soviétiques soient au courant.
Mais aux États-Unis, la communauté qui croit aux ovnis ne le soutient pas. Edgar Mitchell est isolé.
Il dit beaucoup de choses depuis longtemps, mais il ne fait que des déclarations, sans rien donner, ni nom, ni document, rien du tout. Et dans ce domaine, vous apprenez vite à être très prudent.
And the UFO phenomenon is real, although it's been covered up by our governments for quite a long time.
Whoa! Hang on a minute, but this is big. Whoa, all of this is quite a shock to me.
Well, I'm sorry, you haven't been reading the papers recently. It's starting to open up quite a bit.
So you're telling me... Well, there's a lot of information to take on board. Hang on a minute. I mean, listen, I've heard, like, crazy UFO nuts tell me this kind of thing before. I've never had Dr. Ed Mitchell, the 6th man to walk on the moon, a respected scientist in his own right, announce to me that we've been visited by aliens from other planets, and that they definitely are out there. There's no debating it.
Well, that's the first time you've ever talked to me, or I've told you about it before. So you believe in all of the whole deal? There's more nonsense out there about this than there is real knowledge, but it is a real phenomenon, and there's quite a few of us that it's been well covered up by all of our governments for the last 60 years or so, but slowly it leaks out, and some of us are privileged to have been briefed on some of it. I happen to have grown up in I don't even know whether you know this place, Roswell, New Mexico, where presumably the Roswell incident of 1947 took place, and I'm quite knowledgeable of the lore there, and since I grew up there, but I've also been in military circles and intelligence circles that knows beneath the surface of what has been public knowledge that, yes, we have been visited. So,
and be serious, you're not going to go, I was just pulling your leg about that. That's not true. Is it? I'm just wondering if I've stumbled upon astronaut humour, and in a couple of minutes you're going to go, I was only pulling your leg.
No, I won't say that.
Wow. So what? So you've been briefed on the fact that we've been visited.
Well, I have briefed is one word for it. I have been involved in much of this work. No, it's not my main work. It's not my main interest. But I have been deeply involved in certain committees and certain research programs with very credible scientists and very intelligence people that do know the real inside story, and I am not hesitant to talk about it.
What is the real inside story?
Well, I've just been telling you, we have been visited.
Are we in regular contact, or was it a one-off crash, or?
Well, no, there's quite a bit of contact going on. I can't tell you because I don't know all the extent of it. I don't know all the inside details because that isn't my really main interest. But the fact that we have been visited, the Roswell crash was real, and a number of other contacts have been real and ongoing, is pretty well known to those of us who have been briefed and been close to the subject matter.
So why is it being covered up then? Why is it that it's not mainstream?
Well, the reason for that goes back to the main incidents really started taking place after World War II, when in the United States, at least, I can't speak for the European government or the South American governments, all of whom have recently started opening their files. And it's been open. This is starting to open up, and just read the internet or look at some of the press, international press. You'll start to get the stories that are coming out now. But
I've had people on the show telling me that the governments are mounting up towards disclosure, towards saying that this is the case. Do you think it will be the case that there will be an actual disclosure on this, maybe this year, that the governments will come out?
I don't know whether it'll be this year in the United States, but certainly we've already had it in the last few years from the Belgian government, the French government, the Brazilian government, the Mexican government. They've opened their files and admitted that they had the files.
Right, okay, let me get my head together. Okay, listen, here's what I know. I've had people on the show talking about the fact that the Catholic Church has said belief in life on other planets doesn't compromise your Catholicism.
Of course, that just happened recently.
Yeah.
In association with a major release, I believe, of the British government, some of the British government files. They weren't their deepest files, but there were some files released. Yeah.
What's happening is, at the moment, over the next 4 years, all of the UFO files here in the UK are being released. Do you think it's the case that we are ramping up towards maybe the UK admitting?
Well, I can't say how fast this is going to happen, but certainly the public awareness of it is increasing. The public acceptance is increasing. The amount of misinformation and covert attempts to cover up seem to be decreasing. I think we're headed toward real disclosure, and some very serious organizations moving in that direction.
You've had a long time to think about this. What do you think the impact will be on the world when it is finally mainstream news that there are alien beings that live outside this planet?
Well, I think at this point it's probably ho-hum, so it's new. I think that certainly in the United States, there's well over 70% of the people now accept this as fact, although they do not know the all the correct story, they do know that there has been, or accept the fact that there has been visitation and that there's UFOs in the skies all the time that are very likely alien craft. Now, not all of them are. I suspect some of them are homegrown. I suspect that in the last 60 years or so, that there has been some back engineering and the creation of this type of equipment that is not nearly as sophisticated yet as what the apparent visitors have.
What do you think the intent of the aliens is? Is it hostile or peaceful?
No. It's not hostile. It's pretty obvious that if it were hostile, we'd have been gone by now.
Really? I mean, what?
We could have been.
Wow.
We had no defense, if that's what the real intent was.
And what are we talking? What do they look like? Are we talking like, you know, the traditional sort of...
You've seen some of the pictures. The pictures that I know of, some of them are these little people that look strange to us. And as far as I know, from my contacts that have had contact, that's pretty accurate.
We are building. I mean, all my UFO friends, I need to shake them because they're so, frankly, they're extremely naive, Alex. They really believe we're building toward disclosure. I believe we're building toward a mass, carefully manufactured fake event where ETs, who are really humans, who are really part of this secret clique, who are probably Nazis, you know, who developed or perfected their technology from World War II, which is why you've got to get, you know, Joseph on. They are going to basically fake out the world. And there's an incredible window on the Nazi black ops program, the compartmentalized, incredible high technology efforts that were being funded by the Nazi war machine, particularly toward the end of the war in a desperate effort to win the war, and they fastened their hopes on several key technologies, some of which appear to be the control of gravity itself, which again is a separate piece of data from my work, which came at this from a hyperdimensional physics perspective.
I mean, we know there's a lot of suppressed technology. I mean, 20 years after the B-2 bomber was already in service, they declassify it. So we have a lot of cases of that. We know there's a whole shadow government.
This is technology in physics, Alex, that would make anything you think you know like a candle flame compared to a hydrogen bomb. This is a physics that literally allows you to rearrange time.
But I mean, imagine, you've got all these compartments in these pyramids within pyramids of compartmentalization. That's why that's the New World Order symbol. And I mean, we don't know what they've got because they are so secret. We know they lie so much. We just know it's advanced. Mainline scientists say they're 30 years advanced. So Richard C. Hoagland, what I'm saying to you is, I'm entertaining what you're saying. I respect you. I think you're a great guy. My only issue is, like you said, dealing with what we know they could be up to.
The fact, Alex, we have done experiments. We have our own data. We have experiments now from the Soviet Union. 30, 40 years when the Iron Curtain came down, you know, when glasnost finally prevailed, a huge amount of stuff was declassified from the KGB as well. And we now have put this data together. We not only know what the physics is, we know what it can do, we know what it's based on, we know how to make it work. We've seen in our own experiments ample evidence. We've seen experiments across the American landscape and even in Europe that vindicate various parts of this. And the latest thing I'm working on, it looks like von Braun himself was deeply involved in some of this early physics experimentation, but they're keeping all the good stuff for themselves. The reason is that if we got access to the good stuff, if we got access to the technologies, the energy, you know, we wouldn't be worried about $4, $5 a gallon gas or $10 a gallon gas. We would live like people are supposed to live, all 6 billion of us who could live lightly on the earth, Alex, with this technology.
And live longer,
Absolutely, and better, and, you know, you could live to 200-300 and have the virility of your 20s and 30s. There's extraordinary medical medical breakthroughs, there's extraordinary physics breakthroughs, technology breakthroughs, energy. It's all been kept away.
Think about it. We're already on a planet hurtling through space, all these wonders around you, and you've been taught it's bizarre to question, and that's because there's so many kooks in the alternative movement who do talk about ridiculous, Hollywood-style green men, instead of really looking at the shadow government and all these crazy secret societies that are admittedly running NASA and the shadow government.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, during this talk that I'm going to give you, I'm going to explain to you the history of this phenomenon, who the secret government really is, and I will name them by name, the beginning group, the study group. I will tell you who they are today. I'm going to tell you what this is all about. I'm going to tell you who's selling drugs to your children. And I'm going to tell you why the United States government is afraid for you to find out what the truth is regarding UFOs.
It turns out that even though she remembered that she'd been part of the team to debrief the astronauts, she couldn't remember a thing that they said. She couldn't remember why she no longer was working with NASA. She couldn't remember. In other words, her memory lapses were enormous, and I don't think they were feigned, because we now found the same pattern in all the flight crews. Because the awful truth, Alex, is they have been brainwashed. They have been mind controlled. They have had a technology, a very sophisticated technology, which took away the real missions that they...
Top secret underground bases that a huge number of experimental rocket ships and circular flying discs were developed. The prototype V7 craft was powered by engines manufactured by BMW. But we have been given patents from leading German manufacturing companies, including UHA, Krups, and BMW, which prove beyond all reasonable doubt that Hitler considered the Nazi secret space program a top priority. And more than 15 billion Deutschmarks were spent developing craft of all shapes and sizes.
Are these in fact U.S. prototypes of a captured Nazi H-9 flying wing? In the late 50s, the U.S. Air Force funds the Avrocar, a flying saucer that looked like a Nazi secret project called the Repulsing. And in 1965, a UFO crashes in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. It is reportedly bell-shaped and covered with distinctive markings, just like a radical Nazi device that may have been built at the end of the war. Did the Nazis build successful saucer prototypes? Did the U.S. government and other nations develop them in secret? Are all these sightings human-engineered craft?